Today, I want to talk about the most divisive, most intolerant, tolerance crazed, inclusive, who thinks they are tolerant, but divisive among all generations that's ever walked the public streets of the United States of America. Today, I'm going to expose, like many others, the most counted, tainted, and most divisive, intolerant society that's ever walked the public streets of the United States of America. I submit to you today that we will wake up in an America that we no longer exist. I personally believe that we must vote in laws based on facts and based on not hurt my feelings. Let me rephrase that. We need to vote in the laws that are logical and that make sense and that are reasonable for everybody and for all diverses, all races, all cultures, and religions. Not laws that are based on, oh, well, it hurts my feelings, so let's censor, let's make laws banning that. Today, I want to talk about what I call racism, segregationism, and genocide. In 2020, nearly 30%, statistically, you can look it up, it may even be more since the last I looked, 30% of the entire black population or African American population has been aborted since 1973, Roe versus Wade. This isn't a argument or a reason of force and violence. I refuse to bring people in the name and the extremes of patriotism, but if we can come to a common consensus and cut through all the clutter and just tell the truth. We must first move people to compassion, then to wisdom, and then to duty. My question is to you and to all who sees this video is, will we fight? If we face a society based on the propagation and the facts strictly based on truth, will we fight? Our society has completely become intolerant of an absolute right and an absolute wrong. They've become intolerant of anyone who stands to defend a religion, whether it's Muslim or Christian. Like I said, this isn't about religion preaching. This is about absolute truth. And I refuse to bring screaming voices to the names of radical patriotism, although I am a patriot. The question is, will we fight? Because we've come to a society that is based on absolute wrong and absolute right. And our society has become to the point of intolerant, basically. And it's the most intolerant generation, tolerance craved, intolerant generation that's ever walked the streets of Columbus, Ohio, and the public streets of the United States of America. We have become not only politically incorrect, but we have become, in fact, culturally incorrect. anyone who stands to defend the sanctity, the dignity, the value of human life, were deemed worse than politically incorrect. We have, in fact, become culturally incorrect. And today I can expose those facts to the enablers of the abortionists. This isn't about abortion, but what I'm going to talk to you today is about, do we have standards in America anymore? What are our standards? Anyone who stands to defend the biblical definition or the Quran definition as the union of marriage between one man and one woman, they get chastised. Anyone who stands to defend the most helpless among us, anyone who stands to defend the sanctity, the dignity, the value for human life, we have now been deemed worse than politically incorrect. As I already said, we have in fact become culturally incorrect. Based in 2019, we have to face life on an absolute right and an absolute wrong. This is not a fight of force and violence. This is a fight of truth and principle, and I'll throw standard in there too. If we do not raise the standard or recognize our previous and traditional standards, we will wake up in America we no longer exist. We will wake up in an America that parallels or mirrors Yurt's dark, deep slide into post-paganism Christianity, this most self-help gospel, this it'll make you feel good gospel, self-help gospel, steps 1, 2, and 3. Post-paganism Christianity, if you get the idea, anything goes. Oh, it's okay, don't be too critical. But we must, in the gospel or as a Christian, bring people not to be judgmental, but to bring people to have wisdom, move them to duty, and show compassion, but also bring them under conviction. Because when you bring yourself and others under conviction, whether it's biblically under Christianity, or some people out there may be Muslim, under the Quran, it goes the same way. They must bring people under conviction. Peaceful Islam, radical Muslim extremists, I'm not talking about, because that's a different scenario. Peaceful Muslims are out there that completely believe differently than radical Muslim extremists. I don't want to use rhetoric language and get missed and screwed. I'm a moderate, I'm in between. I don't want to get too political because I'm going to stir some stuff up. I'm going to make some folks mad. I'm going to patty cake some of your patty caked hearts, because I'm getting real worried if I take you too far off the side of truth, if I say anything rough, if I say anything too tough, if I go too far off truth, you might not get what I'm saying, and you might just stop the video and stop watching. Ponder a set of two twins whose both parents is alcoholics / and or drug addicts. One twin chooses to indulge in addiction and alcoholism and flourishes in it happily. The other chooses to do the opposite, but they both choose to do what they do. One an addict, and one a non-addict, what we call normal in society today, for the same reason. So my point to sum this up is, will we fight truth and principle? Because this is not a war of force and violence. You know, Dr. Martin Luther King, a Republican, stated that when we lose the propagation and the value of the things that matter most, we will wake up in America, we no longer exist. You know, when nations like America come hanging in the balance, we have to level the playing field out. This, again, is not a war of force and violence. It's a war of truth, principle, and also I'll throw information warfare in there. Right now, we have people on the internet on a daily basis getting censored. They can't even get their message out because Google, Twitter, YouTube, they're only allowing the information and allowing people to see the information they want you to see, and it all has a political background, and it definitely isn't for the president. You can clearly watch all the news channels except Fox, CNN, ABC, NBC, CNN, all of them except Fox work against Trump on a routinely basis. This, again, is a war of truth and principle and informational warfare. Those are the 3 points I want to hit. Since the Roe versus Wade in 1973, 30% of the black population has been aborted. And don't get me wrong, it's not just about African Americans or black. All races and ethnicities have been affected by abortion and their enablers. 50 million as of 2010. 50 million. Not 620,000 that was lost in the Civil War. 50 million. So we may have to go over a little history here. In the 18th century, a generation fought to defeat British rule. In the 19th century, a generation was ripped into two because white folk hated black folk. And I believe in my heart that God said to that generation, because you didn't hate the shedding of innocent blood that was lashed off of every African American, the blood shall be repaid with the blood of the sword. In the 20th century, this nation and generation fought to defend civil rights and Americanism. At least African Americans at this point, their rights were restored, at least on paper. At least on paper. It took another 50 years before their rights were actually allowed. But history in the past is being distorted with current issues now. What happened 200 years ago, we need to learn from. History is important so it don't repeat itself. But what's going on today is, like I said, the war of truth, principle, and informational warfare. It's all being distorted. If you agree with just one issue of President Donald J. Trump, just one, you're considered a racist, homophobic, xenophobic, anti-Semite, anti-feminist, name it, that's what you are. If you agree with one issue of Donald Trump. But what I find quite funny, well, not funny, but sad, is that it took Donald Trump to pass criminal justice reform, but yet we have Antifa and Black Lives Matter rallying to impeach the president that passed criminal justice reform. Immigration on the southern border is an issue. For years, Democrats were against it because the African American community, as we understand it, votes mainly Democratic. We'll say about 85% of the black population votes Democratic. Every 4 years, Democrats come around, they rally to get the black vote. Donald Trump, out of all presidents combined, has had more African American votes than any other Republican predecessor prior to him. Right now, I'm starting to get a little bit political to explain my point. We're going on 17 minutes here. To sum this up, we have to understand that we have a generation in 2019 that's being raised on technological advancements, computers, phones, YouTube. So we're talking about the truth being distorted, principles being distorted, and again, information being distorted. Some facts may not be facts. Some facts may be biased and facts from other people's perspective based on their political belief. That's why I believe if we come to the common senses, right, left, middle, Muslim, Christian, black, white, blue, whatever, if we can all come to the common senses that there is an absolute right and an absolute wrong, then we can all live in a diverse society. Because in 2019, right now, if you walk down the public streets of Columbus, Ohio, and say you stand for Donald Trump, I can guarantee you 100%, you have three possibilities. You're going to get cussed out, jumped, or even killed. It's crucial that people take this information in. Look it up for yourself. There are mainly conservative and libertarian media sources on YouTube that are being censored and even blocked. Some far left Democrats are even being censored, like some of your 9/11 truthers. Some are Democrats, a lot are Libertarian, Republican. Very few Democrats are being censored, but there's a lot of conservative and libertarian censorship going on. And if we